proteins, balanced meals, making sure I'm eating my fiber, healthy fats, protein all at the same time, trying to eat for balanced blood sugar, and taking, of course, the supplements from the stress side. I take sleep, stress, and focus every single day. All of that combined helped me lose 52 pounds in 10 months and then continue to have some of that weight come off.
Our next guest is Rachel Soper Sanders. She is the founder of Rootine, and she has an MBA from Harvard Business School. She is a podcast host, an investor, a health and wellness digital creator with over 100,000 followers. Through her social media and her newsletter, Glow and Elevate, she shares practical tips on stress, weight loss, sleep, and productivity, but her driving force is getting high-quality supplements into the hands of as many people as possible, with a focus on helping women 30 and over achieve vibrant health. Drawing on her experiences as a mom of two and a wellness expert.
There are so many health challenges, but the biggest is this mental wellness crisis that we've talked about, where women are more stressed, more overwhelmed, more burnt out than ever before. And the worst part is...
Hi, my name is Chris Burris. I'm a longevity expert and the chief scientist at a lab focused on a longevity molecule. My primary focus is to help people live longer and better lives with science. Make sure to subscribe and share so you and your friends can live longer and better. Well, actually, so you and your friends can live beyond the norms.
Hi, welcome to the Live Beyond the Norms Health and Longevity Podcast. Our next guest is Rachel Soper Sanders, and I am really interested to dive into our conversation. I love it when I get to have conversations with fellow supplement company owners, and Rachel has all the accolades. She is the founder of Rootine, that's Rootine, and she has an MBA from Harvard Business School. She is a podcast host, an investor, a health and wellness digital creator with over 100,000 or around 100,000 followers. Through her social media and her newsletter, Glow and Elevate, she shares practical tips on stress, weight loss, sleep, and productivity, but her driving force is getting high-quality supplements into the hands of as many people as possible, with a focus on helping women 30 and over achieve vibrant health. Drawing on her experiences as a mom of two and a wellness expert, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right, so I like to do a little kind of background stuff. Your undergraduate degree is in economics from Vanderbilt University, and while you were there, you are the founder of the Vanderbilt Entrepreneurial Society. It seems you had a clear idea that you were going to be an entrepreneur. When did that idea first come clear in your mind, and what factors would you say gave you that clarity?
Yeah, I founded that organization. That was my first entry into entrepreneurship myself. I would say founding a club in undergrad is definitely something that's difficult, but it was really fun, and I learned a whole lot in that experience. The why or the how behind entrepreneurship, it was really part of my everyday life. Different members of my family had started their own businesses. I had heard about kind of business building, business ownership. As I was growing up, the conversations around my dinner table were really around what companies were doing what, who founded them, how they grew. And this was a lesson, which I didn't quite realize until I was a lot older, in entrepreneurship. And my first real job, I would say, when I was 17 out of high school, I interned for a company that was building costume jewelry, selling mostly through QVC. And that was a small business, another kind of entrepreneurial experience through that. And that was another thing that really set the seed for, okay, this is something where I'm going to want to start something. I'm going to want to grow something. I want to do that at some point, but I really had no idea what that looked like until much later. And so I went down after undergrad, a much more traditional route, went into investment banking, was there for 4 years, then got my MBA, and then I started a business. So it was really a not super linear path, but it all makes sense when you look back.
Yeah, the whole picture. So interesting that your kind of internship was with a QVC organization, kind of foretelling of the future, right? Being in the online space, being in media and marketing. My first job was with Ponderosa Steakhouse. So really I'm not using any of the skills that I acquired being a host at Ponderosa Steakhouse. That's a franchise that's up north. So you get into you get your MBA from Harvard, and end up at Raymond James as an analyst and associate for healthcare investment banking. Is this where you first started kind of putting your mind on starting a supplement business, or was that still pretty early on and it was more related to your kind of relationship with Dr. Wallerstorfer, if I said that right?
Yeah, I did banking for 4 years directly after undergrad. So I got my BA from Vanderbilt in economics and then did banking for 4 years from there. And you're right, I spent all my time in and around healthcare. So we were working with healthcare service companies, healthcare technology companies. There was a ton of innovation going on the tech side as I was working in healthcare around creating experiences that really made a difference for patient outcomes. And at the same time, I'm around the dinner table talking about business building and entrepreneurship. I'm also in a household where holistic health was really something that we focused on a lot, where my mom was taking me to the local natural food stores. We were thinking about what we were eating when we got sick, how food can help support our immune system, and these other little seeds of information as I'm growing up and taking that into my banking days. My body started breaking down in my early 20s when it really shouldn't, because there's a lot of hours, there's a lot of stress. And so I was dealing with stress and burnout. And I went back to the supplement aisle to figure out how I can support myself. And I was on my own at that point in my early 20s. I was overwhelmed. I wanted to make changes. I wanted to support my health, but I didn't know where to start. And that was really a light bulb moment where I said, hey, there should be more science-backed, data-driven approaches to holistic health. And that was the start of what later became Routine after business school, where our goal is to really create smarter health solutions for your most vibrant health, specifically talking to and helping women 30 plus in and around mood and mind health. Because what we're seeing in today's market is there's more people that are experiencing those problems that I experienced early in my 20s and then again in my 30s around burnout, around overwhelm, around stress. And it's a lot of women over men that are outwardly or they're experiencing it at a higher rate. And so that's really the why behind the company and specifically our product line right now.
I would imagine, right? So as I understand the story, you really weren't focused on social media, but it was very natural for you to get focused on social media because you've been through these experiences. You had to find and solve them yourself. And so like to turn around and go like, well, I could share this with lots of people, tens of thousands of people, now 100,000s of followers. Was that a kind of a natural transition for you, even though it wasn't on your radar in the beginning?
Yeah, we operated the business for about 4 years where I did nothing on social. We ourselves or the company had organic social, but it was after my second baby, after I dealt with a lot of annoying symptoms that I later realized a lot of people deal with, especially women in their 30s and beyond, where I was doing all the wellness things that had worked previously. Had worked to get the weight off, to make myself feel and look like myself again after my first baby, had worked in my 20s, tried it again after my second baby, and it wasn't working. And I got really frustrated. I felt a little bit lost. And it was around that time that I tested my cortisol levels and really understood that cortisol imbalance, it's your stress hormone, can play a huge role in both how we look and how we feel. It was making it harder for me to drop the belly fat, have that excess weight that I had postpartum. It was making me a little bit more moody, more irritable, more overstimulated, and can also for other people lead to a lot of skin issues, gut issues. I mean, I was experiencing some of those as well. And after I figured that out, started adjusting a bunch of things across my nutrition, across my lifestyle, movement, and realized that I had figured out a bunch of little simple tips, tricks, and tools that worked in my life as a CEO, as a founder, as a crazy busy mom of two. I wanted to share it with other people because other people were having similar experiences. And that's really when I jumped into social about a year ago, a little less than a year ago at this point. And it's been a crazy fun ride. Yeah, as you mentioned, I now have over 100,000. I think it's close to 130,000 combined across the different platforms in just under a year. And it's been really great to be able to have that impact and share my story.
It's really surprising, right? You put a couple of things out there, and I think I look at your brand and I think that you have a very specific sensibility. I'm assuming you're driving the sensibility of the brand, and then I look at your social media content and it has that same kind of sensibility. That's the aesthetics and simplicity. And so I'm not surprised that you're doing really well, but it has to feel surprising, like when that first one goes like 20,000. Did 20,000 people like get this, watch this video? How did that feel when it was first coming out?
Yeah, it was crazy. I spent a lot of months just continuously kind of being consistent about posting, and then all of a sudden something hit about 25K, and I was like, oh, wow, like it can go. And then a week later I hit 175K, and then I was doubling down on that. And then I was hitting 4 million, 5 million, 6 million. And it was just like, what happened? Like, how did this happen? There are definitely ups and downs. There's algorithm changes. There's things that are out of your own control, but seeing the impact, seeing that potential for virality, and just seeing that people care about the story, people care about solving the problems, has been really inspiring.
So we just have to throw this out right now. I'm also trying to grow my IG. So mine's My Vital C. Yours is?
Rachel SOP Sanders on Instagram and on TikTok.
And on TikTok. Excellent. So we'll reiterate those at the end, but this just felt like the right time to put this in. You also talked about doing the traditional stuff that worked in your 20s and it wasn't working in your 30s. I just saw a meme, it was probably this morning, of a lady, I don't remember who it was, but she was adamant and sounded very authoritative about how angry she is with like Orange Theory and some of these kind of high intensity organizations that are actually targeting women in their 30s and 40s. And those actual routines are not the right routines for women in their 30s and 40s. I don't know, did you end up adjusting your movement, your exercise as well?
Yeah, movement is so individual and your goals are so individual. So would be a very hard thing to like blanketly say Orange Theory is bad for women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. What I did personally experience, I was a workout class girl. I loved going to workout classes. I really like high intensity workouts. It does something for me mentally. It's one of the few, when I'm working out really hard, it's one of the few times that my mind shuts off about work or parenting or all the to-do list in my head, which is really helpful for me for stress management. That being said, high intensity cardio for people who live a stressful lifestyle otherwise can just contribute to that cortisol imbalance. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that in my own body, in my own life. And I switched some of those days of high intensity cardio to more strength training and more walking. I still sometimes do it because I like it. It's not something where I cut it out totally, but shifting to strength training, one, can have a lot of benefits around cortisol balance, helping with stress management. And especially for women, it does a lot for overall health span and longevity. There's a lot of research I'm sure you've seen come out where weightlifting, building muscle in your 30s as you age can really help support your bone health long term. It can help support your health span long term. So there's all these other benefits to doing it too. A lot of classes have a strength training component, but it might not be as heavy as you need to be lifting. You might be doing too much running or too much cardio depending on your body. So if you are experiencing symptoms of high cortisol, you've got other stressors in your life, which, let's be honest, all of us do, that might be something to think about. I'm not going to tell you to cut it out altogether. That's something that you and you alone need to figure out, but maybe shift away from it a little bit and see how you feel.
Yeah, try something different. I think it sounds like you have kind of a workout intensity. I played semi-professional soccer, and when it was really, really kind of cementing in my mind that I need to do less intense workouts, it's really hard. Like I feel like, okay, I'm walking at a fast pace and I don't feel like I'm working out. I'm doing I call it a Pee Wee Herman bike ride where I'm like saying hello to everybody as we're going. It doesn't feel like a workout, but it is in fact what's best for my body. And I think it's important to understand that especially intense exercise is another stressor, right? Like, great, it helps you manage it. Maybe it more like supplants one stress for another, right? So let's get the stress of business ownership and parenting out of the way and like throw in this other one. You just got to be mindful of that. Now,
exactly.
When you were first coming to market, you were really focused, and this is kind of my impression, please correct any kind of inconsistencies, on customized precision, micro daily nutrient packs based on an individual's test results, and then to track that health improvement on an ongoing basis, which is a really appealing and intelligent idea. Talk about the genesis of that concept and maybe some of the challenges, because I think your focus is a little bit different now, and talk about some of the challenges of putting that piece together.
Yeah, so our Smart Multi was our initial product that we came out with. We still have it today. It is a custom dosed multivitamin based on your biological data. We look at over 100 health data points across lifestyle, genetics, blood levels, and also hormones, all supported by our at-home lab tests that we also have. And people love it. It's a very customized, personalized product that is also challenging when it comes to a distribution perspective. So you can only really find it on our website. So people can't go to Target or they can't go to Walmart and get a custom dosed multivitamin, because that's just not how it is. Because our products are bespoke to each individual. So it's truly created just for you. And there's a lot of people that love it. We have extremely high loyalty, high retention on that product. And at the same time, we're seeing some market shifts around if direct consumer is the only model, or if the impact can really come from having more of an omni-channel approach. But beyond that, we also saw from our customers that they were saying, I love the multivitamin and I'm having trouble sleeping. I love the multivitamin and I'm dealing with a bunch of brain fog. Or do you guys have anything around nootropics? Or I love the multi, but I'm really stressed, or I want to manage my cortisol levels better. And I'm also personally going through a lot of these issues at this time, and we're seeing what's going on in the world with women specifically. And even CNN has said that millennials are facing the first well-being decline in close to 100 years, where coming out of the pandemic, people, and women especially, are more fatigued, they're more overwhelmed, more burnt out than ever before. And that was really combined the why behind creating these new product lines. So our functional drink mixes are clinician formulated, third-party tested. They're made up of therapeutic dosages of natural adaptogens that really are meant to create more of an immediate effect versus a, hey, take this all the time, take this long term, take it 3 months, and then maybe you'll feel something, which is what a lot of supplements are. And that's where we saw like a ton of success when we launched it. So right now we are talking a lot about that. People are really finding out about us through these new product lines, and they're loving them. We're seeing crazy success, and it's been a really fun ride since the launch of these.
That's awesome. I think I saw an interview, again, the concept of customize and taking in genetic data and lifestyle data really makes a lot of sense. I think you had some sort of quote about, what is the most popular multivitamin and when was it developed, and it hasn't changed since then?
Yeah, one a day. I'm going to misquote myself, but I think it was developed in the 40s. It was developed in the 40s or the 50s. And so we're looking at close to 75 years plus since it's really changed. And we know so much more about ourselves, about the world, about science than we did 75 years ago. And so really looking at how to incorporate a lot of those learnings into the health products that we're taking every day is something that is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to bring up that point because, we've got to be thinking, I think we need to be thinking differently. As a business owner, I find it interesting, these types of decisions that you have to make, right? So one of them is you're looking at distribution, because I think about the time you were shifting, you were talking about getting into some different distribution channels. And you can't do a bespoke product into a distribution channel. It's like Charles's version. It's like making the keychains at the gas station. You can't make enough of them to actually make it scalable. So it makes perfect sense. Now, you're focused on stress, sleep, and focus. Why these three? I'm assuming that your customers were really kind of clamoring for these in general. Is that the end of the story?
We are really focused on this mood and mind health market. And what we've seen is a $24 billion supplement market. And a lot of brands are not really focused on this woman that building for, we're creating for, and that I am, where it's 30, 40s, 50s and beyond, millennial, Gen X. They're underserved, but they're desperate to find solutions. They make up 85% of consumer spend. They're already looking for the natural effective options, but these larger incumbent brands are really not speaking their language. They're not developing products for them. They're kind of leaving these women in the lurch, I would say. And as we looked at that demo and what the biggest problems were in and around mood and mind health, we see that cortisol imbalance is at its peak in women between ages 35 and 55. And a lot of the problems that stress, sleep, and focus address stem from cortisol imbalance, but it also just stems from these daily issues that people are experiencing, where I think it's 75% of people, 76% of people are stressed on a daily basis. We see that 64% of women aren't getting adequate daily sleep. Brain fog, trouble focusing, mental clarity is a big problem for women in these age groups. And we're also seeing that 90% of women are deficient in choline, which is one of our key ingredients in focus. And so we're really looking at how do we support relaxation and calm today, healthy cortisol levels tomorrow with stress. How are we helping you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up and be your most productive self in the next day with sleep and focus?
So I had a couple more questions about product, but you kind of got back to cortisol. I know that's part of your health journey. Give it for the audience, like what is cortisol? What's the background of cortisol? What causes it to cause problems in you?
So cortisol is your stress hormone. If you look at a hormone, I think about it like a hormone pyramid. People say it in different ways, but cortisol is one of our major hormones, along with oxytocin and insulin. And if your major hormone is off, that means minor hormones can be thrown off. It also means that cortisol is impacting a lot of different processes in the body, which most people don't realize. It's much more than just a mood issue. It can throw off so many things. And that's experiencing symptoms a lot like I've talked about. So that's excess belly fat, trouble losing weight, moodiness, irritability, sleep issues. There's cortisol, melatonin issues, and circadian health problems that have been linked to, I think 50% of recently diagnosed cases of depression have a circadian health issue. If your circadian health is off, it can create that and everything from like hair issues, hair thinning, skin health, adult acne. Lots of things can come from excess cortisol levels. And how it happens is, obviously there's mental stress, and mental stress can come from work. It can come from just living life. It can also come with, which most people don't really realize, from our phone use. So social media, content, podcasts like this, like everything is meant to be emotion provoking. It's meant to be polarizing. It's meant to create a feeling so that you want to consume it. And that over time can be really stressful for the body. Or if you're picking up your phone first thing in the morning, you're looking at your email and you get something that's annoying, your cortisol spikes. And then there's physical stressors. I mean, we talk about exercise, nutritional deficiencies can be a physical stressor, excess blood sugar. So blood sugar and cortisol are really mixed, or really go hand in hand, where if you're eating a lot of processed foods, you're eating a lot of sugary foods, you're spiking your glucose a lot. That can create a problem with cortisol levels. Also, if your cortisol is really high, your body's putting more blood sugar into the bloodstream. So it creates this really bad cycle that a lot of people are in. And we see that too. So it can be a lot more than just, I'm dealing with stress at work. There's so many different things that can stress our bodies. Light, that's a new one that I've learned more and more recently, where a lot of the artificial light, people are sitting inside 92% of the time. And they're using a lot of artificial lights at night, which can disrupt melatonin production, which also can then make you sleep worse, which can then make you more stressed, your cortisol levels elevated.
Yeah, thank you for that kind of overview. I know the key targets that I think of with cortisol is one, it actually does wake you up in the morning. So it is recommended not to have a cup of coffee right away because you actually have a mechanism, and it's called cortisol that wakes you up in the morning. And the other, I think, is an intermix of cortisol and adrenaline when we experience fear. And this is kind of prehistorically, when a lion is chasing us, we get these spikes. And when a lion is chasing us, you are actually running off those hormones and those chemicals. And maybe that's part of the reason you're so attracted to these high intensity workouts, because it is actually depleting those things. Even though it's a different stressor, it's depleting those chemicals. Yeah. And so cortisol is really important. Talk about as you were kind of getting your cortisol to balance, postpartum, your second child, what impacts were you finding? And I think, there was one statistic I saw, about 50% of patients who are newly diagnosed with depression have excess cortisol. So talk a little bit about its impact when you finally started getting it under control.
I'm still working on it. Let's just say that, but I'm still balancing it. So when I tested, that cortisol awakening response, which you just talked about, cortisol is actually supposed to wake you up, wasn't really there for me. So my cortisol was actually too low in the morning and too high at night. It's supposed to be on a curve. It's supposed to go up pretty quickly in the morning and then gradually taper off. But if you've been stuck in fight or flight, or you had constant stress levels, or your cortisol has been constantly elevated, it can start to do things that it's not supposed to, like be too low in the morning and not actually rise the way that it should. And that I've slowly started getting closer to a more balanced rhythm, what it's supposed to look like. And it's definitely been instrumental in how I feel. I have done a lot of these shifts across lifestyle. We talked about the movement on the lifestyle side. I started putting my phone away 30 minutes before bed. I have much more of a specific nighttime routine. I try not to drink coffee right first thing in the morning. I hydrate first. That's another stressor. Dehydration is a physical stressor. So I hydrate first thing in the morning. I try to get outside and get that morning sunlight. I've added play back into my life. So we don't talk about play enough, especially in and around health and wellness or longevity, but play is so important for stress management and just like overall well-being as we age. A, it helps with socialization if you're playing in a group, but B, it just allows your mind to be like more creative. And my version of play is, I started playing tennis again. Let's talk about high intensity cardio. But I started playing tennis again.
It's also the sport associated with the longest lives. So
yes,
smart
exactly.
decision.
It is. So I played all growing up, and it's been a great way to increase my socialization, build some new relationships, and get in some exercise, but also feel like I'm playing again, which has all been really great for my stress. This combined with food, really focusing on those high quality proteins, balanced meals, making sure I'm eating my fiber, healthy fats, protein all at the same time, trying to eat for balanced blood sugar, and taking, of course, the supplements from the stress side. I take sleep, stress, and focus every single day. All of that combined helped me lose 52 pounds in 10 months. And then, continue to have some of that weight come off, since then. And then I also am seeing much better energy. I'm less overstimulated. My skin is clearer than it's ever been. And I've just felt like myself again, which is something that as moms, especially, is really hard to do. It takes a long time. And I'm someone who is like, I don't care. I didn't care as much how I looked. Obviously, I wanted the weight to come off, but I wanted to feel like I was me, because until I do that, my mood and my mind just doesn't work quite as well after babies.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Hey, super quick break from the podcast. Hopefully you're loving it. This is a way you can support the podcast and take advantage of a great offer. We're offering 50% off of one of our MCT bottles. MCT is an amazing oil. Add the ESS 60 molecule to it. It's even more amazing. All you got to do is leave a review on iTunes, send us a notification that you've left that review. We'll get you a coupon code that'll get you 50% off of our MCT oil and free shipping. Back to the podcast.
So you mentioned tennis. Have you tried pickleball? I imagine that there's like some sort of rift between tennis players and pickleball people. Have you tried it, and have you said like, no way, that's too slow, or anything in those words in that world? By the way, I've never played pickleball, and my wife has been like, we should play pickleball. I'm like, I'm not sure.
I tried it once. I had not played it. I was on a family trip actually this summer, and my aunt is a racket sport pro. She plays all of them. She plays racquetball and squash and tennis, and of course picked up pickleball. And I really liked it. I thought it was really fun. It's definitely not tennis, but it's social. It's fun. It feels like you could do it like with your partner and like with friends. It's a lot less serious. And I think it's, especially as we get older, I think it's a really good alternative if you're like, my knees are not doing well, or the running with tennis isn't working anymore. So it's something I've been trying to play again since the summer, but I think it's awesome that so many people are picking it up.
It's kind of crazy when a sports takes off, and I can imagine that pickleball would be a little more social, right? When you're a lot closer, you're more in proximity, so you can talk smack to the losers.
And it doesn't seem to take as much skill. I'm not trying not to offend any pickleball players, but I
knew there was a risk.
I mean, if you're 30 something or 40 something wanting to pick up a sport, picking up pickleball is going to be way easier than picking up tennis, because tennis has, I mean, you could do it. People have done it, but there's some muscle memory and there's a lot more, I would say, technical skill, I think, that's required with tennis, which is why so many people are picking up pickleball, because it's a great workout. It's easier to understand. I mean, it's probably going to take some work to get good at it, but to play socially, it seems like fairly something a lot of people can do, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think it's probably like skiing and snowboarding, right? Like snowboarding's fun, but you know, they say if you don't have 3 days to practice snowboarding, don't bother trying to learn. And skiing is not kind of wired. You don't need that kind of wiring to make it work. So I want to get back to your products. I ordered a sample pack from your site. You have a nice little quiz. Went through the quiz, got the sample pack. I saw a number of reviews. We'll talk about taste first, and then I want to get into a little bit of formulation. How much time relative to formulation of the actual ingredients did you spend on taste? Because it's a you know, sometimes it may have been an afterthought. I don't know how integrated of a thought it was while you were formulating.
We spent a lot of time on taste. Like a lot. Like I would say, I don't know if it's quite 50-50, but I would say like 1/3 taste, 2/3 formulation, because we spent a lot of time in the formulation. Our clinical nutritionist who formulated it spent months going through research, reading research reports, understanding the individual ingredients, how the individual ingredients work together with other ingredients, making sure we were hitting dosages. So that process we spent a lot of time on. But people aren't going to want it if it doesn't taste good because it's a drink mix. It works faster because it's a drink mix, but we needed to make sure that we were all super happy with the taste. So we spent a lot of time on taste.
Yeah, that makes sense. And if you could, of the sleep, focus, or whichever ones you want, what do you say? Like, hey, we've got this really nice combination that we believe really works really well, and then we've added some other stuff. Like, what might be some of the focuses that went into the formulation that people should be aware of, and maybe some of the science behind it?
Yeah. So for stress, I can go through the ingredients for the individual products. So for stress, we have 4 adaptogens. The most known are going to be ashwagandha and rhodiola. We also have Siberian ginseng and astragalus. And those combined all have a lot of science around supporting stress response, supporting healthy cortisol levels, and also having more immediate calming effects when you take it. So you're getting that long-term and short-term benefit around it. Sleep, our sleep product is melatonin-free. So it's great for daily use. We actually started saying we're going to make a melatonin-free product, in part because there's some differing research around how much, when, and how often people should be taking melatonin, A. And B, there's a large group of people, myself included, that melatonin just really doesn't work for, where it does the opposite effect. A lot of people, it might put them to sleep, but they're going to wake up groggy the next day. And we wanted to make something free of melatonin for that. So we've got magnesium in there. We've got L-theanine in there, phosphatidylserine. Those are some of the GABA and myo-inositol. So these all individually have research around their impact and their ability to help either stop that brain, basically put a brake on your brain, to helping you stay asleep and feeling more relaxed. We're also doing a clinical study. It's almost done, where the study's done. The research is being gone through right now on our sleep product and its specific impact on deep sleep, REM sleep, and all the various sleep metrics that you can get from a wearable, because we did it with a wearable. And then Focus has CDB choline, uridine, bacopa, ginseng, and a little bit of caffeine. It's a natural caffeine, less than a cup of green tea, that all also have a ton of research behind cognition, supporting brain activity, as well as that alertness and helping you stay focused, hence the name. But it can also be used, a lot of people use it for energy. It's like a calming energy and helps you get stuff done. So it's not just for someone who, hey, I'm gonna like sit down and code for a long time. I have a lot of mom friends who take it and like get all their tasks done or get their errands done or get the laundry done. Had someone messaged me saying, hey, I took it and I was like, I wasn't sure if it worked. And then I realized that I spent 45 minutes weeding my yard, a task that I had not been wanting to do, but I actually got it done. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess it worked.
Yeah, that's great. We have a testimonial with our product, which I'll share, is not in any of our marketing material, and it kind of the whole long testimonial wraps with. And I cleaned my garage, right, which is maybe the least impressive supplement testimonial in history, but it does mean something, right? Like when you're talking about weeding the yard, when you're talking about getting the garage clean, like it's maybe in the case of the garage, or even the yarding, maybe there's some emotional baggage related to like weeding or getting into the garage, and also it's just energy, and so that's pretty cool. And I appreciate those level of testimonials, which again probably aren't in your marketing material, but are very, very relevant. I'm not sure that there's a really big Instagram marketing campaign of like, I weeded my yard. Very niche. So I wanted to ask you, like, let's get kind of broader and maybe like what you're talking about on your social media. What do you see as the primary health challenge for millennials and Gen X women today? And I know you've touched on some of it, but maybe just reiterate that if we're already there.
There are so many health challenges that millennial and Gen X women are facing, but the biggest is this mental wellness crisis that we've talked about, where women are more stressed, more overwhelmed, more burnt out than ever before. And the worst part is a lot of them don't even really realize, because they're taking on so much that maybe they can handle it, but their bodies are breaking down with these symptoms that they don't really understand or don't know why it's happening to them. It's also the time when, especially in women, hormones are changing, life is changing, life gets harder, and you need extra support. And it's generally an underserved market where we're seeing a lot of innovation, I'd say, on the TikTok pretty brands that are often meant for the younger generation who maybe don't have as many of these problems that actually need to be solved yet. And there's some general like innovation lacking for these women. And so that's really one of the biggest health crises that we're seeing, and what I talk about a lot too. And a lot of it boils down to cortisol, but a lot of it boils down to just overall hormone health. When you're looking at blood sugar levels, when you're looking at what are you doing across movement, what does your evening routine look like? What are you sleeping well? Are you scrolling social until you go to sleep and then waking up at 2 a.m. and just kind of having a lot of those daily issues that are annoying and frustrating and make you feel not like yourself.
And how much do you think because there's a big change, with social media, and we're running this grand experience. We've all been swiping through, and we're obviously getting dopamine hits, but if we have a negative reaction, we're getting some cortisol spikes. Like, how do you see this impacting all of what you just described?
Yeah. If you get a positive reaction, you're getting cortisol spikes too. If you get really excited about something. I mean, it's, I think social is awesome and horrible for our health all at the same time, because it really does help in a sense for the people that are sharing stuff that works for them, but also just getting people to understand and take control of their health in a way that really wasn't happening previously, because they're seeing other people that are experiencing similar things. Maybe what I'm sharing isn't going to be the magic bullet for somebody else, but at least they recognize, okay, she was experiencing this and these are the things that she did. Like, maybe let me start here and then experiment from there, for example. At the same time, when we're talking about this mental wellness crisis, when we're talking about this massive problem around cortisol imbalance, around sleep issues, phone usage and social usage is a huge part of that, because people are waking up and picking up their phone immediately and getting on social media and getting those cortisol spikes and those dopamine hits instantly. And then they're scrolling at night. They're falling asleep to scrolling. And it's this just constant barrage of the brain is not working for people. It's creating all sorts of symptoms that are frustrating, annoying, and can honestly be solved simply, but it takes some discipline to put down your phone and do some other things.
Dopamine feels so good. You said that it was awesome and horrible, and I think that's true on kind of the lay person, the non-business owner. I think it's also especially true for the business owner, right? Because there's awesome campaigns that work really well, and then you're like, why didn't this campaign work, and why did it actually accidentally run for 2 extra months? Like, it's both awesome and horrible. Do you think there's any differences, and maybe this is not your area of expertise, like, but would you say that there's a difference for men and women? Clearly there's a marketing difference in strategy, but do you think kind of overall cortisol affects men differently? Have you come across articles that imply or state that?
It's not really my expertise, as you mentioned. I will say men are stressed too. The stats show that women are more stressed and they're dealing with symptoms more. For example, fatigue and chronic fatigue, women are dealing with fatigue at a rate of 4x to men. And they're sleeping worse than men. And they're having a lot of symptoms that are different than men. And so I'm not sitting here saying, men, don't take our product, or you're not dealing with cortisol imbalance. Like, I have plenty of friends and plenty of customers who share their products with their husband, myself included, that where if my husband takes stress, he will fall asleep watching TV on the couch instantly, and that doesn't happen any other time. But from a where we sit perspective, the biggest underserved market is really women.
That makes sense. All right, so I have a couple of wrap-up questions, which I enjoy because we're a longevity podcast. Do you have a target age? And you may be the youngest person I've ever asked this question to. Do you have a target age that you want to live to?
It's a really good question. I actually don't think about how long I want to live. I think about how well I want to live long term. So like my health span age, I would love to be continuing to walk around and work out when I'm 90. I don't need to be a triathlete. I saw like a 90-year-old triathlete cross the finish line recently, but I want to be like waking up, feeling good, moving my body when I'm 90 plus.
90 plus. I like that.
My grandfather played tennis until he was 95.
Wow.
That's a goal.
A great goal.
Yeah.
Great genes. You got a head start on a number of people there. How long do you think humans can live?
In an ideal environment, I think that we can push 120. I mean, we're close now, right? The problem with that is everything that we just talked about, is that health is actually declining instead of improving, where our sedentary lifestyles, our phone usage, our constant stressors and disruptions, our food is all subtracting from that number. And so when I say in an ideal world, that means someone from birth through then is balancing their blood sugar. They're not stressed. They're probably not using their phone very much. They're walking around. They're not living a sedentary lifestyle, like basically completely opposite to the way that humans, especially Americans, are living today. And I don't know if that's possible.
Well, I got to throw a wrinkle in that theory, because Jeanne Clement is the oldest lived documented human. She got to they documented it to 122, and she smoked until her eyesight was so bad that she couldn't light her cigarette. That's why she stopped smoking, right? So there's these interesting cases where, there's going to be somebody who gets to 122 who like spends 16 hours a day on their cell phone. It's just, it is. But I hear you. I think, yeah. I had a conversation with a Natalie Nadam, who's an amazing biohacker, and we were like, do you really need biohacking? And our conclusion was, you know what, if you live in a remote enough area where you're away from smog and the hustle and bustle or whatever, maybe you don't need, like, you need to live a healthy lifestyle, but you don't necessarily need any sort of biohacks. And if you're in a city, like, I think you do. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I would say, I mean, of course, there's going to be the outliers, but if we're talking about how long can humans live, let's talk about the average age. The average age is not going to push 120 unless we change the way that we're living.
Oh, yeah. No, we've got a long way. Like the average age right now is, I think, in like 79 or something in that range. What 2 to 3 protocols, habits, mindsets, let's call them shortcuts, because really everybody loves shortcuts, for longevity and a long health span would you share?
Strength training. I have been super consistent for the past 2.5 years. I have a virtual personal training app that has been my lifeline because my biggest blocker was I would always want to show up, but I wouldn't know what I should be doing at the gym. And so I figured out that blocker, got rid of it, and have been crazy consistent and have, even through my pregnancies, really gone on that strength training journey. And I think it's super important, especially for women. We talked about this earlier. Also eating protein. I love that the world that we're in is like eat protein, figure out what else you can add to your plate and lift weights, because so much of my life, it was eat nothing and do a lot of cardio. And that just never really worked for me. So I'm happy that we're living in the eating and working out era of my life. And then I would say hydration is another big one, and light. And that we talked about getting morning light, but also just getting outside during the day and figuring out how to be more in nature is a really good, it's free. It's a good stress reliever, and it helps overall with health and longevity.
What are 1 to 2 things that you think people are getting absolutely wrong regarding longevity and a long health span?
I think that especially in the biohacking and longevity world right now, the concept of all of these protocols are super overwhelming to the vast majority of people. And I think that if we're going to try to get most people, like let's talk about the average human, to implement them, we need to break down those 2-3 hour protocols into 2 to 3 5-minute tips to start with, because you're not going to get to that 2-hour habit stacking unless you start with something smaller. And I think that's one thing that the longevity biohacking world is getting really wrong if their goal is to spread it further to others.
I like that. One of the best biohacking talks I ever saw was by Tim Gray. He's the organizer of Health Optimizers in the UK. They're actually coming to the US for the first time, I think in April, and I will be there. And he was like, all the free things you could do, like stop storing food in plastics, don't use plastic utensils to cook your stuff, get sunlight, like just this whole 30-minute presentation on free stuff that you can do that can have a positive impact. And I really loved that presentation. You probably would have loved it as well.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And on that note, this isn't something that everybody is getting wrong, but the amount of data that we have access to now can be problematic for certain individuals. And so some people are getting the concept of wearables and data tracking really wrong, where they're not using it for directional, but they're over focused on it, which can create detrimental problems to mental health, to just overall health. And so if you are that person and you're looking at your metrics like 100 times a day, that's really wrong.
Yeah. I interviewed John Falacata. He's the editor of Biohackers Magazine, and he actually doesn't have any wearables anymore. And he thinks in terms of like, instead of biohacking, lifespanning is what he calls it. And he was like, anxious about the data. And I think, that's a great point. Rachel, how can people contact you?
You can find out more about me on my Instagram. It's Rachel Soap Sanders, which is SOP. And you can find out my website, how to subscribe to my newsletter, all from there. Also, same handle on TikTok. And you can find out more about Rootine and all of our products at Rootine, ROOTINE.co, Routine_co on all social. And we're on Amazon.
Excellent. What in the near future are you excited about?
Continuing to scale the company and really scale the impact, both from a routine perspective and from my perspective. I'm also studying to be a certified hormone health coach. So getting all the tips, tools, and knowledge to extend what I've learned about everything from my own perspective into helping more people.
That's awesome. Like gather more knowledge so that you can spread more knowledge. And it's Rachel SOP Sanders. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
The handle is Rachel SOP Sanders. And that's on all social media platforms. And then it's rootine.co, ROOTINE.co. And then also routine_co for the social media handles for the company. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Live Beyond the Norms podcast. Make sure to subscribe and follow. Also, make sure not to be that guy, the guy sharing this podcast with people who are not interested in living beyond the norms. If you would like to learn more about the ESS60 molecule, the molecule responsible for the single longest longevity experimental result on mammals in history, a full 90% extension of life, visit myvitalc.com. That's myvitalc as in carbon.com.